Happy Thursday evening. It looks like the first wave of rain has come and passed in the Bay Area. They had the tarp on the field over at Levi Stadium today. I put up a video of that. It was wet. It was pummeling the Bay today. The drive down one-on-one, I saw a lot of hydroplaning. People always start acting crazy once it rains in California as hard as it did rain today, or at least as consistently as it did today, to make things really wet out on the roads. But they're protecting the field at Levi's Stadium. I think tomorrow's supposed to be a sunny day. Rain comes back on Saturday and Sunday. At least that's what the probability says. And obviously, the 49ers and the Dolphins square off on Sunday afternoon. It's just a wild weekend of NFL games. Not only did the 49ers and Dolphins not get flexed into the Sunday Night Football, ironically, because of a game that's not even that good. It's Cowboys-Colts, but they're not going to move the Cowboys off Sunday Night Football. But on top of that, 49ers-Dolphins, which is such a marquee matchup. You've got the best offense in football against currently the best defense in football, at least by points per game. On the defensive side for the 49ers, the Dolphins have these amazing metrics with Tua Tagovailoa that I've been talking about. But you have that. You got the family fight reunion, Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan. You'd think that it would get the top Fox announcing crew, but it's not. The top Fox announcing crew is going to Philly for Tennessee and the Eagles. The 49ers get Fox's number 2 crew, Joe Davis and Daryl Johnston, the former Cowboys fullback. So, and that's just the start of it. CBS has got a doubleheader that's also really good on Sunday. People who are not diehard 49ers or Dolphins fans might resort to NFL, not game time, Red Zone, might resort to NFL Red Zone on Sunday afternoon because there's just going to be so much happening simultaneously. And very ironically, the Sunday Night Football game, to which the 49ers did not get flexed and to which these other teams did not get flexed, is the worst game of all, just because it's the Cowboys and they're playing Jeff Saturday and the Colts. Anyway, as you guys file in, today we're talking about the Mike McDaniel effect on 49ers Dolphins. NFL Next Gen Stats had a really interesting tweet thread this afternoon that I'm putting up on the screen right now. And the tweet thread talked about Tua Tagovailoa, Dolphins quarterback, and what he's doing and what he's done to really see an awesome resurgence for his career, and really a first-time surge for his career since he hasn't been around all too long. But under Mike McDaniel, Tua Tagovailoa, with the weapons that Miami has been the most efficient quarterback in football, and that's who the 49ers will be tasked with stopping on Sunday. And here's what Next Gen Stats said, and we'll take a look at the heat map that they put up on the screen. Tagovailoa has thrown 38 more completions, targeting the intermediate middle third of the field this season, 16 more than any quarterback. So you look at the heat map here that I'm circling on the right, that red area, that's the area of the field that Tua Tagovailoa has targeted more than any other part of the field. Now, his coach and his play caller is Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel, over the previous seasons, had been the play caller for the 49ers, or at least the play designer, with Kyle Shanahan technically being the play caller. So look at the next part of this. What Tua Tagovailoa is doing as far as targeting the intermediate middle of the field is just what Jimmy Garoppolo was doing under Mike McDaniel in years prior. In 2021, under offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel, Jimmy Garoppolo led the NFL with 45 completions, targeting the same area of the field. Now, what's even more fascinating is that this has another layer to it. Right here, the 49ers defense is built to stop exactly what Jimmy Garoppolo does, and what, by extension now, Mike McDaniel going to Miami, what Tua Tagovailoa does. Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel returns to San Francisco on Sunday, facing a defense designed to erase the intermediate middle third. Here's the nugget. Since drafting Fred Warner in 2018, the 49ers have allowed just 71 completions in that area, 15 fewer than any other defense. Take a look at where all the completions happen against the 49ers. And you'll see the red happens in these two hook spots on the right, 10 yards down the field. But most of it happens near the line of scrimmage against the 49ers. And anybody who watches the 49ers isn't surprised that most completions happen at or behind the line of scrimmage because those are screen passes. 49ers pass rush has been so good that teams do not want to drop back and be sitting ducks for the pass rush, so they throw short. It's a quick game or it's a short game, a screen game. Sometimes both of those combine against the 49ers. But that middle third of the field, it's green. It's not red here. It's because the 49ers have so successfully defended it. And they mentioned Fred Warner here. Fred Warner is the key to all of that. Fred Warner was drafted in 2018 out of BYU, where he played a position that they called the star position. That was the nickname for it at BYU. But Fred was a glorified linebacker. He really played defensive back. He really played a nickelback kind of position for BYU. So he was there covering receivers in the slot. He was there with his big 6'4" frame. I mean, he's bigger than most defensive backs. He was there playing pass defense. And the 49ers had a vision with Fred Warner when they picked up a guy out of BYU, a Mountain West school, right? They saw a talent that could cover better than the average linebacker in the NFL. They thought that they could take their defensive prowess to the next level. And this was before they were really, really good defensively, right? 2018. But they thought that in the future, once the edge rush was built, once they drafted Nick Bosa a year after that, right? Once they solidified that position, they felt that they could play a brand of defense that was amorphous, where the linebackers could cover and the safeties could come down and play the run. And the DBs, all DBs, we see Charvarius Ward as the top graded run defending DB in all football right now. And Fred Warner is obviously made true on the 49ers vision with the way that he could cover at that middle linebacker spot. This past game against the New Orleans Saints, key part of that goal line stand, third down, Fred Warner's knocking a ball away with that long wingspan right on third down. When we saw Andy Dalton try to throw over the middle of the field, Fred Warner was breaking the pass up. We've seen Fred Warner cover one guy, cover a tight end, and then split off of him and be able to knock the pass away, or at least tackle a receiver and break up a pass that way with some contact against the guy that he wasn't even covering at the start of the play. So Fred Warner, with his speed, with his intelligence, with his wingspan, is an absolute weapon over the middle of the field. And as you can see here, since 2018, the 49ers have allowed just 71 completions to the middle of the field, 15 fewer than any other defense. There's green in the middle of the field here on the heat map, and that's because nobody targets the intermediate middle of the field against the 49ers relative to other teams. They're all going for screen passes because they know Fred Warner's awesome in pass defense and because they know they don't want to be sitting ducks against the 49ers pass rush. But anyway, this brings us to the final point. And this is why one huge reason why the 49ers defense has been so successful over the past few years, because the highest average expected points added based on portion of the field that's attacked, this is average throughout the entire NFL, is the middle of the field. The intermediate middle of the field is where teams are most efficient throwing the football. And the 49ers defense, as you can see on this chart, prevents teams from throwing to the intermediate middle of the field at a higher rate than anybody else in football. If this is the most efficient area to throw based on EPA, and read this right here. Since 2016, passes thrown between 10 and 19 yards, targeting a receiver in the middle third, generate the most EPA per play of any region on the field. So by extension, that's what you want to stop as a defense. And the 49ers have been stopping that as a defense better than any other team in the NFL since they picked up Fred Warner. Of course, this has ramifications to the offensive side of the ball, though. If the middle of the field has the highest average EPA for offenses, that explains why both Tua Tagovailoa and Jimmy Garoppolo have been targeting the middle of the field more often than the average quarterback. Tua the most out of any QB this year. Jimmy Garoppolo the most out of any QB last year, both in offenses coordinated by Mike McDaniel. So the reason that Jimmy Garoppolo throws in the middle of the field, no, it's not because Jimmy Garoppolo can't throw outside the numbers. That's the laziest, dumbest take that there is probably about Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers. There's plenty of tape to disprove that. He's got plenty of arm strength. He's thrown dimes outside the numbers. It's because the 49ers want to attack the middle of the field. And the reason they want to attack the middle of the field is because it's best to set up yards after the catch. The 49ers have a cadre of weapons that's built to set up, that's built to generate yards after the catch, right? So you want to set those guys up. You've got George Kittle, who loves running through tacklers. By the way, the man who encouraged George Kittle to run through as many tackles as possible, his original tight ends coach, is now the tight ends coach of the Miami Dolphins. That is John Embry. So the 49ers are going to have a reunion with him this weekend. But Kittle, Deebo Samuel, obviously a yak monster as well. Christian McCaffrey, he's been on top of yak lists. Back in 2018, the top 2 yards after the catch in the NFL were George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey is obviously now a 49er. I think Brandon Ayuk is now an honorary yak bro, right? So you've got all of these weapons. Yak is the name of the game for the 49ers. And to maximize it, why would you add a potential tackler named the sideline? John Embry, the 49ers tight ends coach back in the day, now he's the Dolphins tight ends coach. John Embry would fine George Kittle $10 his rookie year every time that George Kittle would run out of bounds at practice or in a game instead of taking a defender on. He'd fine him $10. He wanted to install the habit in George Kittle. He said, hey, if you step out of bounds, that is a free tackle for the defense. But if you stay inbounds and you make somebody try to tackle you, that's when you can break a tackle. You're giving up, and there's a 100% failure rate when you step out of bounds. But if you turn it upfield, there is not a 100% failure rate because even the surest-handed tackler is going to miss a few tackles a year. So John Embry would find George Kittle for that reason because the sideline was not the 49ers' friend. And along those lines, both of the coordinators in this game, both of the play callers in this game, their head coaches, Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel, have schemed around avoiding the sideline. The sideline is a potential tackler, so you avoid it. How do you avoid it? Well, take a look at this heat map. On the right, Tua Tagovailoa, there's a big splotch of red in the middle of the field between the numbers because you're throwing to guys away from the sidelines. They can pick up yards after the catch without an extra tackler, name the sideline, being in the way. And Jimmy Garoppolo under Mike McDaniel, past 3 years, middle of the field. You don't try to test the sideline because the sideline is a potential tackler. So that is what I call the Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel effect on 49ers Dolphins. Both of these QBs play the game in a similar way. They try to attack the middle of the field because they're trying to set up yak. Obviously, Miami is a different team than the 49ers in this regard because they're built on speed. The 49ers a little bit more on yak, but everybody likes yak, right? And we know that Mike McDaniel hasn't strayed all too far from his roots. But I think it's just fascinating, especially a part of that indicates that the 49ers defense is built to stop the passes to the intermediate middle of the field. And that is exactly what Miami is best at. Now, I'll tell you another stat. This is the inverse, right? Miami's defense ranks number 29 DVOA in defending passes that travel 15 yards or less through the air. So Miami's defense is not good in short game defending. The 49ers rank number 1 offensively in DVOA on passes that travel less than 15 yards in the air. So while the 49ers defense is built to stop the bread and butter of the Miami offense, and by that I mean this right here, this heat map right in the middle, 49ers defense is built to stop that, as you can see on this heat map. The Dolphins cannot say the same. The other way around, the Dolphins defense does not seem built to stop the 49ers offense. In fact, the Dolphins on the aggregate have a below average defense, but they're particularly bad at defending shorter passes, 15 yards or fewer from the line of scrimmage. And the 49ers are the best team in the NFL, the highest efficiency with Jimmy Garoppolo with those short passes. The short game is an art. It should not be held against quarterbacks. I know that fantasy football players and people that don't know much about football try to hold it against quarterbacks. But those same people would discredit Joe Montana, who was huge on the short game. Those same people try to discredit somebody like Drew Brees, who's going to be a Hall of Famer because of the short game. Tom Brady, who's going to be a Hall of Famer because of the short game. The short game wins and loses titles. If you're good at the short game, you're going to win some titles. If you're bad at the short game, you're not going to win titles. You might be a good fantasy football QB, but you won't be a real QB whose efficiency translates into winning games. So the fact that the Dolphins do not cover the short game well, number 29 DVOA against it, means that the 49ers, who are number one in the short game in the NFL offensively, have a leg up in this football game. And guess what? The past two games have been the most pass happy that Kyle Shanahan has ever been. Against the Arizona Cardinals in Mexico City, it was unprecedented, but the 49ers had 15 snaps at the end of the first half, and Kyle Shanahan called passes on 14 of them. And then last week, Jimmy Garoppolo threw a record 28 times in the first half against the Saints. And hey, there are parallels between these two teams. There's a video going viral of Mike McDaniel walking down the sideline, talking into his headset, and he says, "Tell me if I'm foolish, but I'm thinking about running a pass play on every single play of this drive. I'm going to call all pass plays." And he went ahead and called 10 pass plays and 0 runs, and Miami kicked the field goal. So both of the coaches in this game, Mike McDaniel of the Dolphins and Kyle Shanahan of the 49ers, seem to be embracing their quarterbacks this year. And that also seems to be a good idea because Tua Tagovailoa ranks number 1 in adjusted net yards per attempt, and Jimmy Garoppolo ranks number 3 in adjusted net yards per attempt. They're sandwiching Patrick Mahomes, who ranks number 2. So trusting your QB when you have a better passing offense than a running offense is a good thing. And funny story, I just watched the Patriots game against the Bills, and we can't tell for sure what Mac Jones was saying, but it certainly looks like he was mouthing toward his offensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, to stop running the ball, that the run game sucks, that he wants to throw more. So perhaps New England is going to be on its way to embracing the pass game and its quarterback a little bit more. Although I'm not so sure that Mac Jones is the answer to do that. There is a chance, and this is a side note, that Jimmy Garoppolo is back with the Patriots next year. But we can talk about that in another place and time. Anyway, it's time to move to a 49ers-Dolphins Q&A right after I show you what I wrote this morning. Some of you probably already familiar. 2019 versus 22 49ers defense. This is the article up on The Athletic. Can the 49ers defense rival its 2019 prime? The test versus the Dolphins could provide the answer. I'm copy and pasting this link, and I'm going to put it into the chat section right now, and then we're going to go on to questions. But basically, I compared the 2019 and 2022 49ers defenses in depth, and I came to a conclusion. And to spoil things, and you should still read it because it goes into way more depth than this, but the 2019 49ers defense in its prime was better than what the 49ers have seen here in 2022. Good chance for 2022 to prove that it's closer to that 2019 prime level against the Dolphins this weekend. But the main thing is that this year's pass rush hasn't been as good as the 2019 version. They're not generating nearly as much pass rush productivity, and because of that, they're not generating nearly as much in the takeaway department as they did in weeks 1 through 12 before injuries hit in 2019. Eric Armstead is coming back this week. That has been confirmed by yours truly. I asked him today. Eric Armstead is coming back. And because of that, I think there is hope that the 49ers pass rush can develop a stronger presence on the interior and take a step forward. But as of right now, this 2022 defense is about 10 expected points per game worse than the 2019 defense in its prime. So don't go and call this the best 49ers defense of the Shanahan era quite yet. They're very good, but they still have meat left on the bone, and they got to chew that meat. They got to eat that meat this week, right? You have to maximize your defensive potential if you're the 49ers against the Miami Dolphins, because Miami is the top-rated offense in the game. All right, time for our 49ers Dolphins Q&A right after I drink some water. We did hit 24,000. Thank you. Appreciate it. David, did Eric Armstead play versus the Chiefs when they had a bad second half? No. Eric Armstead, we last saw him against the Rams in early October. So no Eric Armstead against the Chiefs in that game. You also had Nick Bosa coming off a very limited practice. Charvarius Ward coming off a very limited practice. And the guys who were limited in practice, not coincidentally, were the guys who did not look good in that football game. What's my take on zone blitz packages to really get home on Tua? I like whatever blitz packages DeMeco Ryans has been throwing out there in the second half. You guys know my theory, and I don't think it's a theory. I think it's been demonstrated. DeMeco's been sending probe blitz packages in the first half, and by probe, I mean he's feeling out the opposition. A couple of his blitzes got beaten by the New Orleans Saints, and the same thing happened in previous weeks in the first half. But he is feeling out the opposing offense for where a blitz can hit. and then he uses the success or the failure of the probe. He takes the data and he applies it in the second half, and then usually using Fred Warner, but he also uses Talanoa Hufanga. He dials up blitzes that hit in the second half, and that's really fueled this second half shutout streak for the 49ers. Zone blitzes are where you're going to bring in players who you don't think are going to be blitzers, and then you drop defensive linemen into coverage. I don't think that the 49ers are a prolific zone blitzing team because they are built around pass rushers, right? The defensive linemen that they have can all get after the quarterback. So by definition, when you zone blitz with a D line that is really good at getting off after the quarterback, I think you hurt one of your strengths. You drop a guy like Nick Bosa back into coverage. Well, he's your best pass rusher. Wouldn't you rather have Nick Bosa pass rushing than Dre Greenlaw? I would, right? The zone blitz is typically going to bring a linebacker in on the blitz and to create confusion and send that defensive lineman back out. Now, I know you could drop the Menahu as well, but I just don't think that that maximizes the 49ers' strengths. I think that they're a mono team. They could beat the Dolphins with an actual blitz, with a pure blitz, a man's blitz, not a zone blitz, right? They're going to have backup offensive tackles in this game and the very best, the Dolphins, if they do play Teron Armstead, are going to have a left tackle with a torn pectoral muscle in this game. So I think the 49ers will take their chances in that matchup. Do I think that the defense would be better with Jimmy Ward as free safety? No, I don't think the defense would be better with Jimmy Ward as free safety because they don't have a nickel back right now. Unless you want Samuel Womack, a rookie, to be starting a nickel back against some of the best offenses in the league. And I guarantee you that wouldn't go as well as putting a veteran like Jimmy Ward, who's really versatile in that position. Listen, in an ideal world, you'd have a ready-made, built for the job nickel back. Jimmy Ward could play free safety. Talanoa Hufanga could play strong safety. And Tashawn Gibson could be depth. But that's not the reality with the 49ers. They've had injuries at the cornerback position. Their next option past Jimmy Ward at the slot corner position is probably the rookie, Samuel Womack. Jimmy Ward is an accomplished veteran. He needs some time to get used to that nickelback position, and it looks like that's already happening. He had a nice big pass breakup against the Saints. So the best alignment for the 49ers to optimize what they're actually working with, not a fantasy, what they're actually working with in real life is Jimmy Ward playing nickelback and Tashawn Gibson, who's been pretty damn good playing that safety spot next to Talanoa Hufanga. Juanito asks, do you foresee more running things happening this weekend with expected rain or heavy pass due to the inconsistent run game? I don't think that the rain's going to be heavy enough to affect the pass games in this game. Today, there was a lot of rain. Jimmy Garoppolo looked sharp in practice, and there's not going to be as much rain in all likelihood on Sunday. I think both of these coaches are going to want to air it out because that's what their offenses do best, and that's what the opposing defenses are most vulnerable against. On both sides, I think the matchup is similar, and that's what I illustrated at the top of this video with all those charts. Okay, looking through some questions here. Michael McCoy, this could be weird, but I would like to see Kyle Juszczyk get some snaps at some runs like outside zone. Why not? He's a good runner and obviously doesn't go down easy. Well, he's a good runner, but Kyle Juszczyk's not nearly as fast as your typical outside zone back. Outside zone is predicated on speed to kind of hit that accordion blocking scheme and hit the edge before the defense gets there. So Kyle Juszczyk, I mean, he's a great blocker for outside zone because he could find his blocking assignment with the speed of a good, quick fullback. But that, he's just sealing somebody off or laying a lead block at a certain depth that's not the sideline. You've got to hit the very edge as the running back to win on those outside zone plays. And I don't think that Kyle Juszczyk is quite fast enough for that. He's a specialized fullback. He's not a specialized running back. But on the interior, you love to see it. Kyle Juszczyk's got some nice burst, and you could hit that quick hitter, just put it in his belly, and he runs forward without having to drop back further to the deep back. Yeah, that kind of stuff works better, but I don't think you're going to see Kyle Juszczyk on the outside zone. 70% chance of rain on Sunday. It could be like it was when the 49ers faced the Colts last season. Now, no, the Colts, they were predicting an atmospheric river. That was 100% chance of rain. And literally, I love that term, atmospheric river. It means that the atmosphere opened up and the river started flowing down. at Levi Stadium. That was brutal for the offenses. This on Sunday, I've seen as little as like 0.07 inches projected of rain. I think the bulk of the rain came through on Thursday. Now, it could still be wet, but I don't think it's going to be like the Colts game last year. What is the guess on Tua's time to throw with their O-line injuries? Well, Tua ranks number 6 in the NFL. This season, he's averaging 2.6 seconds from snap to release, which is fast, which is around Jimmy Garoppolo fast. Yes, I mean, the injuries are bad on the offensive line. We saw the Miami Dolphins struggle against the Houston Texans in the second half with some of these injuries. I don't think that Greg Little or Brandon Shell are good tackles. They've given up a profuse amount of pressure. It's going to be about the short game early for Miami. The question is, do the 49ers successfully dissuade the Dolphins from that short game? Are they going to play some tiger coverage? That's what the Rams did to the 49ers last year in the NFC Championship game. Are they going to take some risks? Are they going to take some big blitzes early on to force Tua to get the ball out early? That all, it's all in the cards. And I think that the kitchen sink is going to be thrown both ways. I think Mike McDaniel is going to schematically throw the kitchen sink at the 49ers, and D'Amico Ryans is going to throw it right back. So this is going to be a big-time battle between a pair of really good play callers on the offensive and defensive end. And what it comes down to is if the coverage is good enough to dissuade the Dolphins from running the short game, that's when the 49ers will be able to dig in and capitalize on a beaten-up Miami front, potentially 2 backup offensive tackles, and make Tua Tagovailoa hold on to the ball a little bit longer. A wet football does affect throwing, yes, but a certain level of slickness is manageable. It's when it's just really dumping. And also, people, it's not just the throwing, it's the footing on the field. When it turns into a lake on the field like it did in that Indianapolis game last year, or the monsoon against Chicago this year in the fourth quarter at Soldier Field, when it turns into those types of conditions, that's when you're like, ooh, boy, guys can't cut. Routes are not precise. The football's obviously really heavy when it's that wet, right? It's hard for the guy to throw it. You always talk about a heavy football in the wet weather. That's what changes games. But there's no firm indication yet that we're going to see the amount of rain that causes, those kind of complications to a pass game. Mason is the perfect back for this Finns D line. Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw my tweet, but I asked Jimmy Garoppolo today about Jordan Mason. And let me read you what Jimmy Garoppolo said, because everybody's wondering what Jordan Mason's exact role will be. And by the way, Christian McCaffrey essentially confirmed that he'll be playing today. Eric Armstead literally confirmed that he'll be playing. Charles Omenihu literally confirmed that he'll be playing. And Spencer Burford was back at practice. Spencer told me that he had a lot of swelling in the ankle yesterday, but that swelling went down, and it sounds like he's going to play. But here we go. Jimmy Garoppolo on Jordan Mason. You guys want me to put this tweet? I'm not going to put it up on the screen. I'm just going to read it. He makes it tough on defenses, and I think those are body blows that wear on you in the fourth quarter. So it'll be interesting to see a full game with him. That's what Garoppolo said. In response to my question about Jordan Mason, it was a longer answer, but at the end he said it'll be interesting to see a full game with him. To me, unless Jimmy's trying to throw everybody off the scent, it sounds like the 49ers are planning to give Jordan Mason some nice run, with Elijah Mitchell obviously not available in this game. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. So Jordan Mason, the thing about Jordan, Jordan Ponchez Mason, Ponchez. Everybody's asking me why the 49ers call this guy JP. Well, it's because of his initials. So his middle name is Ponchez. Jordan Ponchez Mason. They call him JP in the locker room. But this is the biggest back that's seen significant action for Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers. He weighs 223 pounds. He wears the number 24. Marshawn Lynch, who was a big back, who was a bruiser, who made people hurt out there on the field, guess how much he weighed? 215 pounds. So Jordan Mason is heavier than Marshawn Lynch, and he runs really hard. There are some body blows inflicted by Jordan Mason. Knocks some of the soul out of opposing defenses. Gives the 49ers offense a change of pace from the blazing outside zone runner, that wouldn't administer nearly as much contact. I know they've always been physical in the backfield. They've tried to combine physicality with speed. Maybe that's why the 49ers have such a high injury rate at running back. But Jordan Mason is a true 220 plus pound bell cow. And given what Jimmy Garoppolo said, it'll be interesting to see a full game with him. I can't wait to see if that actually ends up coming to fruition, because I think that Jordan Mason does share a lot in common with Marshawn Lynch and that running style. And that's something that might be able to give this 49ers offense a new dimension. What happened to Davis Price? If he's back, I missed it. He is back, but it seemed last week that Jordan Mason was higher on the pecking order. So we'll see what happens now without Elijah Mitchell, but Davis Price is healthy, ready to go if the 49ers need him. Who do I got coaching Stanford football? Greg Roman. I'm going to predict that Greg Roman is going to be the next coach of Stanford football. It's Thursday, December 1st at 9:49 p.m. Prediction will be Greg Roman, next coach of Stanford. He used to be the offensive coordinator there under Jim Harbaugh. Yes, Ty Davis Price is back from injured reserve. Will Tevin Coleman be bumped up? Probably. We'll see what they do. We're going to talk to Kyle Shanahan about this tomorrow. 49ers probably having meetings about this kind of stuff right now. But the news here that I can offer you is that the 49ers will have Christian McCaffrey almost certainly, based on what Christian said today. How do I do this? Somebody leave it in the comment section. How do I film in 1080p? I'm using StreamYard. I'm using a very new iPhone to film. If you could tell me how to stream effectively in 1080p, I'd love to do it, because as you can tell, we already have the portrait mode going, and I'm just trying to improve video quality with every time that we do this. I hope that you guys, everybody complained about the sound quality a few weeks ago. Sound quality's gone up. This is the best mic that I think I could get for a podcast. Hopefully it sounds nice and crisp. See right there. I'm not going to lean down into the mic. Some people, it's crazy. They put the mic blocking their face, and it's like, dude, you're on camera right now. I need to see your face while you're talking. So I keep the mic right here, and hopefully it does sound good. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And, anybody who's a technical expert, if you want to let me know how to broadcast in 1080p, let me know. I've got fast internet, and I think that we can make it happen. Why would you rest Christian McCaffrey if you don't even know what his issue is? I mean, he just said he has knee irritation. If he's fine, he's fine. At a certain point, you pick up players so they can play. If he had some kind of injury where he needed the rest, I would get it, but nobody knows for sure what he has outside the 49ers building. He's classifying it as knee irritation. He's running just fine in practice, and he says that he's fine to go. I think that, these players and the staff probably knows better, because they have more information than we do coming in from the outside. Should be video recording quality under camera settings. All right, hold on. Let me see if I could change it right now. Oh, yes. Well, I could. All right. Thanks for letting me know. Okay. So I just switched to 720p. Is there a difference right now? I literally just switched to 720p. It wouldn't let me switch to the full, whatever you want, the 1080p, because I had already started the stream, but I did switch to 720. Let me know if it looks a little bit different. The thing is, I'm willing to do 1080 because from this location, at least, because we have ultra fast internet and I'm plugged into the Ethernet. I know that I'm getting technical for some of you that just want to talk about football, but we do want to improve the video quality of the channel. So right now I'm on 720. And if you guys like the 720, then I'll keep it here and we'll experiment with the 1080 a little bit later. All right. Yeah, I was a bit blurred before. So anyway, thanks for the heads up. I'm glad that I'm no longer blurred. I'm glad that it's a little bit better now. And we'll keep the analysis on point. Hell yeah. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Thanks. Mike says it looks good too. Just got a text from Mike. We got to get Mike's stamp of approval. Mike's stamp of approval is what really matters, right? So, all right, back to the questions. Enough technical advice. I appreciate all the technical advice, but if you have questions, why don't we get to that? We talk a lot about the 49ers D versus Miami's offense, but do you think the Niners O can exploit the Miami D? Yeah, I mean, this is what I've been talking about in some of the lives, and I'll probably do a short tomorrow to hammer this home. Miami's defense against passes that travel 15 or fewer yards in the air, number 29 DVOA. The 49ers offense on passes that travel 15 or fewer yards in the air, number 1 DVOA. So the 49ers' very strength is the Dolphins' biggest weakness defensively. The Dolphins are a below average defense and they're terrible at defending short passes. The 49ers' biggest strength on offense is the short passing game. That's how the 49ers are going to try to control the football game, is through the short passing game. Unless Miami just drops back and lets them run all game, but I don't think that's very smart either. So it's going to be dependent on scheme and dependent on alignment, but the numbers tell us that Miami and their cornerbacks and their safeties and their linebackers and their pass rush, I mean, their pass rush has been number 22 and adjusted sack rate. All of that's mediocre for Miami. Listen, there's a reason why the 49ers are favored by 4 points in this game, and it's because they're a better two-way team than the Dolphins are. The Dolphins might have a more explosive and productive offense than the 49ers, but the 49ers still have a good offense, and they also have a good defense to pair with that offense. The Dolphins have a bad defense to pair with their offense. So this is the matchup where the 49ers can make some hay. Garoppolo is throwing a little bit deeper this year, yes, but his short game efficiency is still the top in football. You can have number 1 DVOA on the short game while also throwing deep, and he's been doing that decently well, right? But still, the strength has been relative to the rest of the league has been in that 15 yards and shorter window. Is Lance sitting in defensive meetings as well? He should, so that it makes it easier to read the D in game. I don't think so. I think Lance is just there with quarterbacks, just it's the standard way they do it. Kyle Shanahan will drop in on defensive meetings, but he's the head coach, so he's got a little bit more flexibility. He can delegate, he can go around and check out different meetings. But I think Trey Lance is in there with the 49ers quarterbacks. Jason Alvarez wants to see Kittle have an amazing game like he did in Seattle last year, but I'm also sure that you would like to see the 49ers actually win. They didn't in Seattle last year. 2 weeks from now, by the way, 49ers will be in Seattle on Thursday night. It's going to be a fun game. But we have a lot before then. We have this game against the Dolphins before then. We have the 49ers playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before then, and then it's off to Seattle on the short week. Do I think that it's going to be a case of Kyle showing Mike, I taught you everything I know, but not everything I know? I don't know. Could be the Darth Vader Obi-Wan Kenobi matchup, right? We meet again at last kind of stuff. We'll see. I mean, Mike McDaniel's been with Kyle Shanahan forever. I think that Kyle has a better all-around team this year. He's had more time to build his team. Kyle has that advantage. But I mean, both coaches, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Both coaches, I think, are going to try to throw the kitchen sink at each other because when it comes to a family feud, it generally is more personal than when it's just anonymous coaches fighting against each other. Do I think that Tyreek and Waddle are going to run all over the 49ers? Not necessarily. This 49ers defense seems really confident. I think that there's a lot of speed there, but I think there are neutralizing factors to the speed. If it was a track meet, the 49ers would lose for sure, just like any other team in the NFL. But the good news for the 49ers is this is a football game and not a track meet. And football games have mitigating factors such as trench play, especially if you perform well enough technically on the back end. And that's going to be key for the 49ers to move this game into the trenches. They don't want to run a track meet. They want to play a football game against Miami, and they have to dictate those terms. Yeah, but Obi-Wan died on, Mr. Wheezy E says that Vader killed Obi-Wan. That's the point. Obi-Wan died on purpose in A New Hope, right? Obi-Wan sacrificed himself because he said that he'd become more powerful than Vader would ever imagine. And then he disappeared because he became one with the Force. So this is a whole lot more complicated than Vader killing Obi-Wan. I mean, this was This was chess, not checkers from Obi-Wan. And maybe we'll see some chess, not checkers from Kyle Shanahan in this game. Gabriel says, I'm a Niners fan, but I don't get how people say our defense will overcome after that Chiefs game. What are your thoughts? Here are my thoughts. Even the best defenses of all time have had bad games. Even the best defenses of all time have gotten lit up. You want an example? The 1985 Chicago Bears, the 85 Bears, considered by many experts to be the greatest defense in NFL history, had a loss where they gave up 38 points to Dan Marino and the Miami Dolphins. How about the 2000 Ravens? The 2000 Ravens are considered one of the greatest defenses in NFL history. They had a loss where they gave up 36 points to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The 2019 49ers, also a really good defense. Maybe we don't call them great, but they're really good. So far, the best of this era under Kyle Shanahan. They had a game where they gave up 46 points to the New Orleans Saints. The point is that in this league, everybody gets paid. The other team gets paid too. So just because you have a really good defense doesn't mean that you can escape scot-free in all 16 or 17 of your games. In fact, it's almost inevitable if the 85 Bears had a game where they gave up 38 and the 2000 Ravens had a game where they gave up 36, it's almost inevitable that you're going to have a bad game. The key for this 49ers defense, which gave up 40-plus points to the Chiefs about a month ago, is to ensure that that does not happen again. And this is their chance to show that it won't happen again. So I wouldn't worry about that previous game against the Chiefs. I'd worry about this game against the Dolphins. And if this 49ers defense is what they've shown they can be over the past 4 weeks, right, when they've held all of their opponents to 0 second-half points and a shutout over the whole game last week against the Saints, if the 49ers are that unit, plus Eric Armstead, who's coming back this week, they should hold the Miami Dolphins to a low enough total to where the 49ers offense can beat a bad Dolphins defense in this game. That's what complementary football is. What about Kinlaw? Kinlaw is still on IR. So until they open up his practice window, which didn't happen this week, no updates on Javon Kinlaw. That's the news on Javon Kinlaw. That we heard it. He had the fluid buildup in his knee. They're learning how to manage it. And I think my theory with Kinlaw is that the 49ers are going to try to surgical strike him here into the end of the season so he can be as productive as possible, because they know if this fluid is going to be an issue throughout the rest of the season, if you use him now, he might not be available for later, but you'd rather have him available for the very most important games, especially since you're currently on a winning streak. Armstead will be a huge factor in making sure the 49ers don't have a repeat of the Chiefs game. Yes, of course. But so will the fact that Nick Bosa has actually practiced. So will the fact that Charvarius Ward has actually practiced, right? 49ers are a different defense in that Chiefs game, and bad games happen in the NFL. You just have to prove that they're an anomaly. And if you do that, if you make one bad game be your one single anomaly, you will be a great defense. And the 49ers are marching toward that right now. It's fitting that I wrote about this today, right? Why don't we put it up? Hide the comment. This is what I wrote about. Can the 49ers defense rival its 2019 prime? The test versus the Dolphins should provide the answer. Seriously, if you guys are really into these comparisons, how good are the 49ers defensively? What can they be against the Dolphins? I cover all of it in a very detailed report there, and I just put it into the comments section. It's past 10 p.m. Anybody watching on the East Coast at 1 a.m.? You're crazy if you are, but I respect it. Hardman did kill the 49ers with jet sweeps. 49ers weren't ready for the run game against Kansas City. I mean, that's what convinced me that was an outlier, is that Nick Bosa looked lost. You think Nick Bosa is going to look lost again? I don't think so. It's Nick Bosa. He doesn't look lost twice in one season. He hardly got the practice. He looked lost. 49ers couldn't stop the run. You can't stop the run. You can't rush the passer. It's a domino effect of crap. 49ers need to stop that domino effect this time. That involves stopping the run game with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. Still feels weird to say that the 49ers are going against those guys, but that's the case this week. And then you got to stop the short passing game. And you're going to have to run, you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's coverage-wise against that short pass game to dissuade Miami from going to that well too many times, because that's when you can get off the pass rush against the weakness of this Dolphins team, and that is two backup offensive tackles in all likelihood. Any Dolphins fans on? That'd be crazy. Rob is on the East Coast. Rob is one of the crazy ones. I love it. Shout out to Rob over on the East Coast. How does the new DB look? Jenkins, is he washed? No way to tell, my good friend. No way to tell until he's actually pressed into a game. They worked him out and they signed into the practice squad, so they must think he's got something left. Janoris Jenkins is 34 years old, so he's not as quick as he was in 2016, which was 6 years ago, age 28, when he was an all-pro, but he might be just experienced enough to give the 49ers some snaps in the clutch. He did intercept Jimmy Garoppolo last year with the Tennessee Titans. Janoris Jenkins did. Janoris Jackrabbit Jenkins. So don't rule anything out, and we'll see as that develops over the course of this year. I'd be shocked, though, if they called him up for this first game. Watching at 12 a.m. in the South. That's awesome. My fiance is out in Nashville right now. She's definitely not watching, though. So good for you for watching out there at midnight. Memphis. I like Memphis. I went through Memphis 2021. I made a drive in January 2021 from Nashville to New Orleans, just driving solo, because I found a flight from New Orleans to LAX to get back to California for $19. Those were the days, right, when you could find flights for $19 from New Orleans to LAX. And I was like, hell, I want to see some of the South here. So I routed through Memphis, and I saw the Ducks walking at the Peabody Hotel. That was really cool. Ate some good food in Memphis. And then I had maybe one of the best lunches of my life driving through Mississippi, about 5 or 10 minutes off the interstate. I believe the town was called Winona, Mississippi. I might be wrong, though. I'm going to have to go and check it. It was right by the railroad tracks. It was like a former train station, depot, whatever, turned into a restaurant. And it was the coolest thing ever to just pull off the interstate down there, because they call it the interstate in the South. I'm a Californian. It's the freeway out here, but there it's the interstate. Pull off the interstate, just go find a place to eat in Mississippi. It was in between Memphis and New Orleans. And I was planning to be in New Orleans for when the Saints were in the playoffs, but the Buccaneers beat them in the divisional round. So I was in New Orleans for the NFC championship game between the Bucs and the Packers. And then you had, was it the Bills? Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Bills were playing the Kansas City Chiefs later that night, but it was the Bucs and the Packers that was the close game. What city has the best food in your travels? Well, I don't think there's a single city in America that has better food than San Francisco, but that's not in my travels. That's where I am right now. Pretty awesome place to be based here during the season. As far as it's going to be, hard if you're not counting San Francisco, which I think edges out New York, because San Francisco has fresher ingredients. It's got, diversity, but it has fresher ingredients. So if you're not counting San Francisco, then New York is going to be up there. Chicago is a really good food city. It generally goes, the bigger the city, the more diversity you're going to have, the better the food options, right? I really enjoyed Mexico City. That place is huge. That place had a lot of diverse food options. That was cool. You guys know I love going to Europe. One day when the NFL opens a division in Europe, maybe I'm going to cover one of those teams or help the NFL out to expand their operation over there. I'll eat really well in Europe, and maybe the channel will still be going by then, and we'll eat our way through Europe. That'll be fun as well. But there is no clear-cut favorite, as far as city on the road that has best food, because they all have their own dishes, right? Chicago's got the hot dog that they're going to give you, or the deep dish pizza. New York's got their own offerings, and everybody's got their specialty. I can't wait till I go to Seattle in 2 weeks, and I'm going to go to a place called Stampede Cocktail Club in the Fremont district. That is like a cocktail bar. It's almost like got a loungy feeling, right? Good sound system. And at 1 a.m., they serve you Chinese dumplings, like really, really good dumplings. It's the most random thing ever, but it's this cool like fusion that they have at this bar. It's called the Stampede Cocktail Club out in Seattle. That's like a very Seattle thing, right? Does Seattle have the best food out of any city on the travel circuit? I don't know. Hard for me to tell, but they have that one combination that I really love. They have some other good stuff in Seattle as well, but you just have to eat what each city specializes in, and then you got to make a video about it, and then you guys can go check the place out too. Yeah, I do my food YouTube channel. Why will you talk about football? Where do I buy my suits? Well, this is not a suit. This is a hoodie. But no, I'm just kidding. My suits I buy from Suit Supply, Maiden Lane, downtown San Francisco. To be honest, my fiance does a lot of the outfitting. She enjoys that, so we will give her some credit for that as well. She was in at Suit Supply the other day. We got the turtleneck. That was her gift. So I will as soon as I get a good gift like that, I wear it for the live, because then somebody came on and was like, hey, my wife wants to know where you got your turtleneck. Suit Supply is the answer to all of those questions. They need to be paying me right now. I can't wait for McDaniel versus Shanahan this Sunday, and then Brady versus Garoppolo the next week. Oh my God, it's going to be crazy. And then 49ers Seahawks the week after that. Godzilla says if Garoppolo wins the Super Bowl, he'll be a better QB than Garcia, Smith, and Kaepernick. I think he already is a better quarterback than those guys. I mean, the track record speaks for itself with Jimmy Garoppolo. He wins football games and he's efficient. So you can't just say that quarterback wins are a simple stat that aren't good enough for you, because Garoppolo is also delivering the efficiency. Again, since 2017, he's been the second most efficient quarterback in the NFL on third down, behind only Patrick Mahomes. That's the passers down. That's the QBs down. That's the money down. Garoppolo has come through for the 49ers when he's been healthy, period. And he saved this season. If he doesn't re-sign with the 49ers, imagine how screwed they'd be after Trey Lance got hurt. So, yeah, I get it. People judge by Super Bowl victories in these more generic arguments. So it'd be hands down if Garoppolo won a Super Bowl. But as far as efficiency and winning goes, and efficiency and winning are tied together, Jimmy Garoppolo's already accomplished a whole hell of a lot in a 49ers uniform. Can the O-line protect Garoppolo better this week? Well, that's one of the keys. I don't think the Dolphins have as good of a defensive front as the Saints do. And the 49ers do have the benefit in this game of having a full week of rest. Remember, they're coming off the short week and all that altitude their last time out. And I think that compromised the play on both lines of scrimmage. This time, the 49ers should be much fresher. All right, I'm going to go back to talk about what I did at the top of the video. For those of you who joined a little bit later, since we're at a peak high viewership right now, thanks for all of your questions. And we're going to talk, just in summary, about the Mike McDaniel effect on 49ers Dolphins. Put this up here on the screen. Tua Tagovailoa, Miami's quarterback, is targeting the middle of the field more often than any other NFL quarterback. Next Gen Stats put this out there. You can take a look at the heat map over here on the right. Tagovailoa has thrown 38 more completions, targeting the intermediate third of the field than he's thrown 38 of those completions, 16 more than any other NFL QB. And it just so happens that what Tagovailoa is doing is just what Jimmy Garoppolo did last year. In 2021, with Mike McDaniel as the 49ers offensive coordinator, Garoppolo led the NFL with 45 completions targeting the same area of the field. So you see the heat map here. The red is the intermediate part of the field. The reason why McDaniel and Shanahan love to do this is because the middle of the field has the highest average return of efficiency in the NFL. Since 2016, passes thrown between 10 and 19 air yards targeting a receiver in the middle of the field generate the most EPA per play of any region on the field. So the reason that Jimmy Garoppolo is throwing to the middle is not because he can't throw outside the numbers. It's because the 49ers are trying to maximize the most efficient area to throw on the field, and they have a team of players built to maximize yards after the catch. And that, to me, is fascinating entering this game, because John Embry, tight ends coach for the 49ers in the past and now for the Dolphins, so he'll be at the game. He's the guy that fined George Kittle $10 every single time he ran out of bounds several years ago. And now Kittle's one of the game's most ferocious yak monsters. So the philosophy of both Shanahan and McDaniel is to avoid the sideline because the sideline is a potential tackler. Stay in the middle of the field. Avoid the sideline. Don't add a 12th defender. Name the sideline. And that's worked so well for both of these offenses. Remember, Tua Tagovailoa is number 1 in adjusted net yards per attempt. Jimmy Garoppolo, number 3. Mahomes is number 2. So throwing to the middle of the field works. And guess what? For the 49ers, defending the middle of the field works. Ever since the 49ers picked up Fred Warner, here's their heat map. They don't give up anything to the middle of the field. That makes this a fascinating matchup. 49ers offense against the Dolphins defense that isn't good at covering short passes, and the 49ers are the best in the NFL at short passes. And then the other way around, 49ers defense that takes away the middle of the field, intermediate passes with Fred Warner as a great linebacker against the Miami offense that loves to hammer that part of the field more than any other team in the NFL. I think it's an advantage 49ers just because the Miami defense is below average, and the 49ers should be able to get an edge there. And that's what the spread says, with the 49ers favored by 4. But anyway, cool stats. Hope you guys enjoyed them. Make sure you check out the article that I wrote about the 49ers defense comparing 2019 and 2022. Subs to The Athletic. Hit the subscribe button on this YouTube channel. Twitter, I'm at Lombardi himself. Guys, I just talked for an hour straight. Didn't lose my voice because I have a good voice. I don't lose my voice unless I'm coughing a little bit, but the coughing's not happening. Anyway, hope you appreciated it. Hope you enjoyed the show. At least give it a like, at least give it a sub, and we will talk to you all tomorrow. Everybody have a good night, and everybody take care.